At the bottom of the world, there is no anchor. There is no reason that we exist. Reason is something that we use inside of the world once it already exists, but it can't explain existence. But the problem with having that as a reality is it makes you wonder why we do anything at all. If at the end of the day, the distinctions between the things in the world are illusory distinctions, why do we divide the world up in the first place? Like, what is the impulse? Why do we do it? Why? How does that make sense? And I think really all it is just that we have appetites. We are animals, and we have wants and needs, and we pursue them. And it's only in pursuing an appetite that we distinguish the world into subject and object. If we have no impulse, if we have no need for food, for instance, then we don't get up and split the world into things that might be filling and things that aren't filling, So everything comes from appetite. All distinctions, at least, come from appetite. So another way of saying that would be to say that ontology is based in appetite. Ontology being the study of beings, what makes things distinct entities. So the way that I create my series of categories, of ontological categories, is purely by what is relevant to me in my course of action through the world. If I'm traveling through a forest, and on the other side is the village where I live, then the things in the forest are really just obstacles to me. A tree that I walk past, I might see that it has apples growing on it, and I can see that tree. It's a food object. That's really all it is. It's not distinct in any way, except as how it's relevant to my course of action. So in one sense, it's an obstacle, because it's in the way of me and the village that I want to get back to. And in another sense, it is a producer of food. But that's really all it is. The tree isn't anything to me except for those two things. Now, of course, I do see other features, but all of those features have the same property where I only perceive them because they're relevant to my course of action. The colors of the tree, it's me perceiving its orientation in space, its density that I feel and perceive. The only reason I experience those things is because they affect my course of action. So I break the world up into distinct entities because it's going to affect how I go about my day. A problem arises when we do this, though, because if I treat the tree only as an obstacle or as a food producer, I end up not paying attention to it. I plaster an ontological category over it. And, I have these other perceptual processes. I can see its color, its shape, its density. I can hear its leaves rustling in the wind. But I don't really pay attention to them because I've already established its ontological character. So essentially what happens here is that because I only perceive the world as it's relevant to my course of action, I end up oversimplifying the world. And then the world comes and bites me in the foot. So for instance, if I saw the tree only as a food producer, and I didn't see it as a potential obstacle, then maybe a wind blows, knocks over the tree, and suddenly I can't walk forward anymore because this tree's in my path. So then as the tree falls and it damages me, it becomes an obstacle, and it hurts me, the reality sort of pierces through the veil of my ontological framework that I have overlaid on the world. So the point there is that attention is actually necessary in order to keep the ontological system working. So the only reason I have that ontological system is because of appetite. But if I don't have just raw conscious attention, I end up with a ossifying system. So as a recap, the reason we create categories in the world in the first place is a means to an end, to satisfy our appetites. And those appetites are just part of the world. Fundamentally, nothing is distinct. The only reason we create distinctions is because we possess appetites, and those appetites are the things that create the distinctions. But we're in a little bit of a circle here, because the appetites themselves belong to the world, which is inherently indistinct. So the thing that is doing the distinguishing is the world. The appetites are just features of the world. And they're just a peculiar kind of feature of the world that breaks the world into ontological categories. But then again, attention is necessary in order to make those categories function. But again, it is just the world that is updating the world. So still fundamentally nothing is distinguished from anything else. It's just that those unique parts of the world which have appetites generate ontologies, and they also generate pure attention in order to update those ontologies. So it is the conscious being possessed of appetite which reduces the world to essence. That, it doesn't pay attention to reality. That just thinks of the world as being a series of objects. It is the world that does that. The world reduces itself to its essence. But it is also the world that looks past that essence and pays pure attention. Both things are results and features of the world. Being, then, is not only pure awareness or the total untouched infinite or anything like that. All the mundane reductions of the world are themselves intimately connected to being. Both finite and infinite, or essence and existence, are equally valid and real parts of existence, of being. Then I find that a kind of paralyzing but not exactly unpleasant realization.